Hey gamers, Gecko here. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit grouchy and slower today. I didn't get to sleep until 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was rudely awoken at about 11. So, yeah, you could say I'm a little bit tired. But at least this time, I have some good news. The Guilty Gear developer session featuring Cyberpunk happened yesterday, and we got a lot of information, not just about Lucy, but things coming to Guilty Gear Strive. Now, it was quite a weird situation. We didn't see a lot of things. There wasn't a lot of things shown to us in-game. There was no model, there was no intro animation, there was no trailer, but we did get told a lot of different things, and from the things that we did get shown, we could glean quite a bit of information about how Lucy will play and the possible future of Guilty Gear Strive. So for those of you who don't want to go and watch the full panel that I uploaded to my YouTube, I'm going to break down several of the key points so that you can at least understand what you missed. So, to begin with, we did get news on Lucy. Like several people thought, this actually showed a bit of the behind-the-scenes development of what went into Lucy. From the Arc System Works side, we saw a bunch of different potential poses for her key art, as well as several key frames of different animations. Though we weren't told what moves they were, we could kind of figure out what they are. Starting with the key poses, the top one, for me, is very obviously just her normal throw. Lucy was confirmed later to not be a grappler during the Q&A section, so this just seems like a standard forward or backwards dust throw. And the animation where she's taken aback a little bit, I imagine will be her tech animation. If she's not a grappler though, that does raise a lot of questions about the move on the bottom left. This move seems to have Lucy throw out her monowire and pull the opponent towards her with it. Now this does lead to a couple of questions, mainly, what the fuck is this if it's not a command grab? Likely it is this is some form of hit grab that Lucy can use to reposition herself. Think actual command grab, but it's a strike instead of a throw. And finally on the bottom right we have something that kind of looks like Raging Storm. In the live stream, I thought it looked like Merkava's arm flail super. However, looking at it afterwards, it does very much look like some sort of Raging Storm type move. Lucy seems to pound the ground, and our monowire goes crazy and starts hitting the opponent a bunch of different times. These are the things that we can glean from the key poses that we were shown. However, we did get shown the process behind designing Lucy's key art. And here we can glean a couple of other things. Several of the key art poses have Lucy with a gun. If I remember correctly, it's A through E and then I all have her equipped with some kind of handgun. Obviously, the final key art doesn't have this, but this could assume that she has not only her monowire, but also some kind of gun. From the things that we can see so far, she's giving Phonon, she's giving Eltnum, she's giving kind of annoying, but we'll see. I will be interested to see if this gun is actually in her final kit, and if it is, how it actually functions with the rest of it. Speaking of the monowire, if you've been around on the channel before, you may have heard me talk about how monowires generally apply hacks in Cyberpunk. Lucy is a netrunner. This is something that they bring up in the panel. And netrunners generally don't fight with melee weaponry. In fact, they normally hack their opponents and force them to do things they don't want to do. This could be simple stuff like turning off their eyes or setting them on fire. Yes, that's an easy quick hack. To crazy things like putting them on your side or making them Kermit the Frog. Now, while we didn't get a deep dive into her kit or even really anything massive about her main gimmick, there was a little bit of a seeming leak where the CDPR developer talked about implementing quick hacks into Strive. And when he said that, Ken basically told him that he shouldn't have said that. So the likelihood is there will be some form of quick hacking within Guilty Gear Strive. How is this going to work? We don't know exactly. This is something we could theorize endlessly on, and it is something that I'm going to theorize on, don't worry. But for right now, I'm assuming something that messes with your meter, and something that messes with your burst. There could be a lot of options for this, and I kind of want to go into Cyberpunk to see what a bunch of the different quick hacks are, and see how maybe they could be translated over to Strive. So if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe down below. And while that isn't a lot, that is all the news we got on Lucy. gameplay-wise, there were some things about this presentation which make me happy and hopeful for the future of Strive from a more casual perspective. To begin with, they talked about the challenges of writing Lucy into the Guilty Gear world. They said themselves it wouldn't make sense for a portal to just open up and Lucy to fall through it. That can kind of happen in Guilty Gear, like see Axel Low, but it doesn't really happen in Cyberpunk. And while it could just be a crossover of She's Here Now, the CDPR developers and the Guilty Gear developers really wanted to make sure that this made sense. Which, if you don't know, is a very hard challenge. But the CDPR and the Strive writers are all working together to try and make this work. And from this, they have said that the arcade mode that Lucy has is not only special, it's going to be 3 times longer than the normal arcade mode. If you don't know, a normal arcade mode can go to 9 rounds. There's one normal one where you fight your rival, then you fight 6 normals, 7 you fight your rival again, stage 8 you fight the boss, and if you win all of these without dropping a single round, you get to stage 9 where you fight the super boss. This is where the general best endings are. If you remember, ABBA had an amazing story mode, but you could only truly experience it if you got to stage 9. Keyword being generally. What this means, though, is that even if we take the 7 fights from arcade mode, this being 3 times longer could mean that this is a 20-fight arcade mode. That's fucking insane. That's fucking ludicrous, dude. I'm not sure how they're gonna do this. I highly doubt it's gonna be 20 fights long. It'll probably stick to around 9. But maybe instead of it being you fight one rival and then you fight them again later, you have a second rival that you fight halfway through. How that fight goes then branches out, and you can get different endings based on how you do in these specific rival fights. Or maybe all 9 fights are voiced and enacted out in a set pattern. Unlike how Strive currently is, where the middle fights are random fights between different Strive members. I kind of hope it's the second one, and it's not just a 20-fight long story mode, because fuck me, could you imagine getting to fight 19 and you get cheesed out? The bot just decides to Goalburster's Slayer, get 100 meter and kill you. Fuck that. Also, during the Q&A section, somebody asked if Lucy was going to have a happy ending, and the CDPR dev was quite vague about it. There were a lot of questions that couldn't be answered during the panel, and we'll get onto that in a little bit. But this was one of the only ones that the CDPR side refused to elaborate on. So, if you're a fan of Cyberpunk, get the tissues ready, because you're going to be crying. Finally, the news fully relating to Lucy is that she is going to have a trailer and an announcement of her release date at EVO. If you don't know, EVO starts on August 1st and ends on August 3rd. I'm pretty sure that Strive has made it so that they're on Sunday's finals this year, meaning that we will be getting more Lucy news and a Lucy trailer most likely on August 3rd, if not August 2nd. If you're going to EVO, expect to see it live. If you're not, don't worry, I'll be streaming the whole thing so we can watch it together over on the Twitch channel. I will say now, do not expect any more Guilty Gear news between now and EVO. Even on ranked mode. Spoiler alert, they don't talk about ranked mode in this panel. I really wanted someone during the Q&A to ask it, but no one did. Everyone seemed too caught up in the idea of asking things about Lucy and a couple of other stuff that we'll get to. But I wouldn't even expect ranked mode at this point. It would be nice if we get something in the next coming weeks. I personally doubt it, though. I expect to hear about it at EVO. But now, transitioning on to the general news for Strive, Lucy is going to be coming out after EVO. She's going to be announced at EVO. And alongside Lucy, there is a confirmed balance patch. Like a real one. Ken did say that he knew a lot of people were frustrated with the current balance of the game, and that we were all going to be relieved to hear this. This does make it about 10 months between balance patches, depending on when it comes out. But at this point, I'll fucking take it. I'm glad that it's going to be coming out after EVO. If I could have my perfect ideal. I would also have it come out after versus fighting. In fact, I would let the good people of the United Kingdom test out Lucy in the New Balance patch at versus fighting for, no real good reason. I really need to make that video on the gas leak. Yeah, that was so funny. Come on, Ken, do it again. Do it again. You can't let us in the creator program, but you can give us the balance patch early. Just do it. But yes, Lucy will be released with a balance patch. Alongside Lucy, there are talks about adding cyberpunk music to Guilty Gear Strive. Apparently, there is someone in the Guilty Gear development team that is a massive cyberpunk fan. Like, an absolutely huge one. And they were asking if multiple different tracks could be added. I don't know if we'll be getting several other tracks that play in Edge Runners, because several of them are copyrighted tracks. But, like, there's a non-zero chance we get Franz Ferdinand in Strive. Hell yeah, man. There was also the talk of maybe adding Guilty Gear things into Cyberpunk 2077. However, when this was brought up, it was very obvious that they hadn't talked to each other about this. It could be that a couple months down the line, maybe we get something in Cyberpunk. They specifically said maybe adding a radio station that plays Guilty Gear music, or maybe adding Elfelt's gun. If I could have anything in Cyberpunk, I'd want, like, Soul's jacket for V, and maybe, like, Happy Chaos's pistol. But it would be interesting to see if the crossover goes the other way. There's also a strange amount of talk about Adam Smasher in this panel. I think it's because he's left a major impact on several of the Cyberpunk fans. But someone brought up maybe we could get a skin of Adam Smasher. Maybe for someone like Potemkin. And despite how several of the Q&A answers went, this one wasn't a outright no. It was more of a wait and see. They said that after Lucy was added, they were going to continue to update with more Cyberpunk stuff. Now, we're not entirely sure if this is skins being added to Guilty Gear or if this is something else. I think the likelihood is this isn't going to be directly skins, but new custom palettes for several characters that make them look closer to the Cyberpunk characters. If you ever played Skullgirls, you know how several of the palettes are just references to other things. I imagine it's going to be like that. Arxis do definitely have the funds and the ability to make skins, see Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, but we'll see if it comes to Guilty Gear. I personally don't think it will, but you never know. Speaking of future things coming to Guilty Gear, somebody in the Q&A asked what goes into developing a character for Guilty Gear, like what the starting process is. And Ken mentioned an original character that's been made, but hasn't been shown to the public yet. Now, I don't want to get everyone's hopes up. I really, really, really don't. But if they are still making characters that they just haven't been able to display in anything yet, I would personally say this points towards there being at least one more season of Guilty Gear. This isn't a Season 5 confirmed. This is just a Season 5 much more likely now. The way that he was talking about it doesn't sound like Strive development is wrapping up at all, so I really do expect there to be at least one more season. Hell, there might even be one after it. If there is another season of Guilty Gear, that means we could get Ragnar. But of course, there'd be no mention of Ragnar at the panel. That would be ridiculous. Apart from in the Q&A section, somebody in the Q&A section basically asked, why Lucy and not someone closer to home? Specifically mentioning Ragnar the Blood Edge. While I definitely expected this to be turned down, Ken actually talked about Ragnar a little bit. He said that he used to be a Ragnar main all the way up until Chrono Phantasma, in which he started playing S, which... fair enough, I guess. He couldn't answer why Guilty Gear and BlazBlue haven't crossed over yet, but from the way that he's talking, he at least is a fan of BlazBlue, and he understands that a lot of Guilty Gear fans like BlazBlue, and a lot of BlazBlue fans like Guilty Gear, even if it seems like we're constantly at each other's throats. So Ark is obviously aware of the feelings of the two fandoms, and maybe there's something in the works that combines the two. Personally, I'm taking this as hope. I'm keeping it in my heart of hearts that maybe someday they'll cross over, because I really want them to. And the developers seem like they know that people want them to, at least. Speaking of things happening inside of Arc System Works, they revealed a little bit about the development process of making characters. Obviously, with this being Guilty Gear's first crossover character, there was a lot of things that the team had to do. But if you know, Arc System Works makes a bunch of different crossover games. They made Dragon Ball FighterZ, they made DNF Duel, they made Grand Blue. Hell, they've helped make Hunter x Hunter. Like, they're working alongside a lot of people who are making crossover games. However, apparently the Guilty Gear team has never had to interact with this side of the company. So they had to go to, like, the Grand Blue guys and ask, hey, how do you represent this character in a fighting game? What this implies is that they're still working under the old Team Red and Team Blue model. If you don't know, back in, like, 2015-ish, when Guilty Gear Xrd and BlazBlue existed side by side, Arc System Works was split into two teams. Team Red, that would primarily work on Guilty Gear, and Team Blue, that would primarily work on BlazBlue. Originally, it used to be that Team Blue did the sprite-based stuff, and Team Red did the 3D stuff. However, obviously with shifts in the company and shifts in the medium, Team Blue seems to have started working on 3D more. This is assuming that it's just still the two teams, but this kind of workflow seems to have not changed. I guess they've just gotten rid of the color names and called them Team Guilty Gear or something. This could also mean that the people working on Marvel Tokon aren't the Guilty Gear devs. Maybe Arxis has got to a size where Marvel Tokon can have its own dedicated team, and so can Guilty Gear. Which would make sense. Dragon Ball FighterZ has its own dedicated team. From what I can tell, Grand Blue has its own dedicated team, so yeah. And finally, just a general note, not one that I really have anything to back up with. From what I could tell, the way that the panelists were talking to each other, Arc System Works and CDPR seem to really like working with each other. The ways that they talk about the development of Lucy, the ways that they're eagerly hiding things away from players, the way that they're just naturally getting on and bouncing off of each other, seems like that at least the Japanese side of both companies have a good working relationship with each other. Ken talked about how when it comes to working with some companies, sometimes you'll send things off and you won't hear back from them in a week. And apparently CDPR would get back within a day. So they had to adjust their workflow to make sure that they could keep up with CDPR's speed. Maybe this means that we'll see more things between these companies. There was mention of them wanting Geralt or Ciri from The Witcher originally, but eventually settling on Lucy, because it just kind of worked better. And also, The Witcher 4 was, like, not announced yet, and they were like, yeah, we can't give you Ciri for reasons. Who knows? Maybe they'll end up working on more stuff together. Maybe CDPR will help on a Guilty Gear spin-off. That was also something that was mentioned that I completely forgot to put in my notes. Someone brought up Overture to Ken's face, saying, hey, do you think there's going to be anything non-fighting game related from Guilty Gear? Maybe like an open world game. He seemed positive about the idea, but didn't give a solid answer. Just kind of said, keep your eyes open. Personally, I'm very excited for this. I love Guilty Gear, and while I do think fighting games can be amazing at giving you specific things, mainly characterization, they're not necessarily the best at telling specific stories. Having an RPG, a character action game, hell, a fucking RTS with these characters in it would be really interesting. And maybe revisiting that Overture idea wouldn't be the worst idea ever. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Those were the main things that I personally got from the panel. If there was anything that I missed, please let me know in the comment section below. I do have some general notes though, because this has come at a weird time for Arc System Works, and while I would really like to forgive them for everything that's happened over the past couple of months, it's not the easiest thing to do. I will say though, the Q&A they did was very impromptu, but the fact that they did it at all and they took questions from the audience and answered them seemingly as best they could was really nice. A lot of the answers were, I can't talk about this, we can't talk about that, that's classified. But it didn't seem like Ken was doing it out of like a malicious thing where he's just stonewalling the audience. It kind of feels more like Arxis wants to be secretive about what's going on within the Guilty Gear team, because they just don't want to give too much away, which is fine. It's nice hearing the things that we did hear, and knowing that they were at least allowing us to talk to the developers and have some sort of way to communicate with them was sick. I really enjoyed it. This event that Arxis has done has been the best thing for Guilty Gear players in months. We got a lot of information without being spoiled on major things. There's still a lot about Lucy we just straight up don't know, and that's good. But we have a date to expect when we're going to get more news. We know when the next balance patch is coming out, and we know that there are things on the horizon for the game. Alongside that, we know a couple of things about how the game is being made. All of this is really nice to know. It's not something we needed to know, but just allowing us to experience it and hear about it is cool. Yes, I am upset that we didn't get any kind of in-game stuff. No screenshots, no intro animation, nothing like that. But being told things was still really nice. It's a lot better than what happened with Unica, where they gave us the intro, and then the day before they came out, they gave us the trailer. At least now we know when we're getting the trailer. Even if Lucy does get a surprise and she's out tomorrow, which I wouldn't be too surprised if that happened. I do hope Arxis hosts more stuff like this in the future. I don't know where or when they would do it. I wouldn't want this to be an Anime Expo only thing, but just having some kind of back and forth with the community is nice. It was really nice for a while when we used to get the developer backyards semi-regularly, and we would hear from the developers about what's going on. It's been a long time since we've got one of those. I think the last one was when Venom came out. And hearing, hey, listen, this is what we're working on. We know we promised you these things, and we are still working on them. It's just a lot of stuff's been going on in the company. Here's when you can expect more information. Thank you for being so understanding. Is really nice. Like, we got more news on the new moves that are coming out. We're getting one extra one in the balance patch, which, slow but steady. We'll take it. It feels like a good step in the right direction. And honestly, all of this information would tide me over until Evo. The fact that we don't have any information on Ranked is really annoying for me personally, but it is something that I am now willing to deal with because I know when we're next getting news. I know what to plan around. If this keeps up, if the developer backyards start coming back, if Arxis starts communicating with the community more, letting people know what's going on, this would be really good. It would be really nice. But there is a chance that they end up going radio silent again. This has happened before where Arxis has started communicating and it looks like they're talking to the community, and then they kind of just go radio silent for a little bit. Please, please, Arxis. After Evo, after the announcements that happen, don't just disappear. Let us know, hey, we're planning to announce something around this event, around this time frame. Stay tuned. Because it gives us something to look forward to. You're taking a step in the right direction, and I really appreciate it. But you need to keep walking if you want to make some serious improvements. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you all liked the things we learned about Lucy. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.